Good morning and welcome to our March 31st meeting of NYPA and the Canal Corporation. Pleased to have everyone here today in White Plains on a balmy spring morning. With me, we have a full squad turnout on site today. Dennis Trainer, B. Gonzalez, Cecily Morris, Mike Cusick, Lori Wheelock, and Lewis Warren. Justin and the full ensemble is with us as well. And as always, this meeting's been duly noticed as required by open meetings law. And with that, pleased to officially call the session to order. Everyone's had an opportunity to review the agenda. Unless there's any thoughts or ideas on amendments, I'd ask for a motion to approve it, or motion to approve it as presented.
So moved.
All right, second is first and second in there. Third, Karen will figure it out. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Contractors, we're all advised in advance. Everyone's provided, I think, responses. If any, as I say, late breaking changes, please ensure Karen is duly notified. As we typically do, we provided for an executive session, but nothing's there's no matters that require us to adjourn to that. So please to pick up a few minutes and we'll skip over exec session and begin our open dialogue. As always, we've got a full schedule of presentations today. There's a lot going on. Our plate remains very, very full as we will all continue to hear. We've been busy as a board, a number of committee reports on the back end. So hopefully you'll find this informative as well. But to kick us off and get us started, as always, our President and CEO, Justin Driscoll.
Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Trustees, good morning, everyone. NYPA trustees, NYPA colleagues, members of the public, Canal trustees as well. Happy to be here with you today, as you said, on a great spring day out there in our March meeting. We do have a lot going on. One of the things that we've been trying to do lately is have maybe a theme that cuts across some of our presentations. So today I'll be talking a little bit about our internal focus. We talk a lot about looking externally, all the things we have going on, but we have to make sure that we're paying proper attention to our internal work in terms of the culture we're building and the people we're developing and so forth. So I'll talk a little bit about that, as will some of my colleagues. Four things to hit today. The first, some of those accomplishments around our people and our culture. Next, talk a little bit about an update on renewables. And third, work in the innovation area, taking a look at the innovation office and some of the successes that we've had in innovation over the last several years. And finally, an update on our advanced nuclear work. And I'll kick that off, and then Todd Josifovski, our SVP of nuclear, will come up and get into a little bit greater detail around that. So building our culture is, of course, a continuous process, and it requires not only attention, but intention. And with all that going on, with all the work we have going on here, we have to continue to stay focused on our internal work and the development of our people. So for all the effort that we put into it, there's nothing better than being recognized and acknowledged by our own people. And so that effort is paying off. And I'm delighted to report that for the second year in a row, Forbes magazine has recognized us as one of the best mid-size employers in America. We ranked number 10 of 500 companies in that category. I think it's employees, I think up to 5,000, if I'm not mistaken. So number 10 of all the 500 companies in that pool, and number 1 in the utility industry. So strengthening our history of being recognized by that publication. And this follows earlier recognition. I think every meeting I'm telling you about a recognition by Forbes, but last year we had a couple in specific categories, if I recall, women and early engineers and recent graduates and so forth. So
that's terrific. Congratulations.
And the great thing about this, of course, is it's based on employee feedback.
That's key.
That's key. So thanks to all the leaders here who enable our people to build meaningful careers, feel supported and included, and take on complex projects for us around the organization for the benefit of all the residents of New York State.
That's fantastic.
That's great. We're very, very proud of it. So that success that Forbes recognizes doesn't just happen. It takes commitment on our part, management's part, for example, by building the skills that are required to create that culture. So a big part of that commitment is the professional development that I referred to of our people. So we live in a volatile and fast changing time, and this places new demands on our leaders to provide direction and clarity. So to meet that demand, this summer we'll introduce a new program for our senior leaders to ensure broader, earlier, and more sustainable readiness for future roles and executive levels. This addition to our leadership curriculum addresses two capabilities critical to NYPA's continued success. One, the ability to foster big picture thinking and shared success across the organization. And two, the ability to lead resilient, adaptable teams in an environment of continual disruption. We talked a lot about the disruption of our industry that causes disruption internally as well. So being able to thrive and succeed in that environment is what we're looking to pull out and support on our people. So we're excited about that launch of that program. And building leadership for the energy transition, of course, extends beyond our internal walls. And so we're looking externally to try to build the leadership necessary outside of NYPA. And one example of that, in collaboration with LaGuardia Community College, our innovative Partner Up 2030 program, which is a 10-week business development and workforce training program. Last year, we graduated 42 leaders of small and diverse businesses that work in the clean energy sector. And the course covers topics such as risk analysis for renewables, fiscal management, construction safety, and automation and AI in construction in our work. So there are one-on-one business advising segments during this and after the program to help these firms navigate the clean energy transition, as well as networking opportunities for them. So we're building internally, we're building externally. Some of those people, maybe they'll come and work for NYPA, but otherwise they'll go off and have successful careers in our work. So we're continuing to track outcomes there and how those programs are working out. But it helps us build a larger, more inclusive supply chain for the renewables work that we're doing. Which brings me to an update on our renewables work and progress to date. I think I mentioned last at the February meeting, we've secured exclusivity agreements on projects totaling roughly 350 megawatts. These agreements have now progressed in the last few months, and we anticipate closing a key transaction in the next few months, and we're excited to share details when that transaction is final and can become public. Meanwhile, today, we're launching a 5 megawatt Hanacroy solar project in Greene County. Our involvement there is helping ensure the project advances since it has faced potential cancellation. And if you remember, these were kind of some of the things we talked about with you in not only in the work we're doing on our own in greenfield development and partnering with others, but maybe using the unique characteristics that we bring to projects to potentially maybe save a project that might not be able to get across the finish line. So this is one great example of that. And the nice thing about this project as well is it's going to be part of our REACH program, which is the bill credits for residents of disadvantaged communities that'll essentially come off the top of that project and be funneled through bills to ratepayers in those communities. So really excited about that. Also, NYRED, which we just heard a lot about at the audit committee. NYRED is looking at an additional 3.7 gigawatts of proposed renewable projects submitted by 10 different developers, and we're hoping to add as many of those as we can to the next update of our strategic plan. So already, as we've talked about before, there's a pipeline. This isn't sort of a one and done thing where we develop a strategic plan and then move on. We're constantly adding to and refilling the pipeline, because there is going to be some attrition in this business, as we all know. But as long as we're continuing to identify new projects, and quite frankly, we're hearing a lot more from potential partners now offering potential roles for us in project development. So we're excited about that, and there'll be more to come on that as we come back to you with an amendment to the strategic plan sometime later this year. As I've also talked about before, we're hard at work, as is everybody else in the industry, and trying to safe harbor as many of the renewable projects as we can to take advantage of the tax credits that are going to be sunsetting. So we're looking at how we can do that, and also looking alternatively on some ways that we might be able to preserve tax credits for projects under 1.5 megawatts, which has a different approach, and allow the use of the 5% spend rule, which preserves the tax credit if at least 5% of the total project costs are incurred before the July deadline. So looking at ways that we can to preserve some of those smaller projects in that manner. We're reviewing response.
What's required to get what when you say exploring, meaning what?
So that we've got to find ways to spend at least 5% of the project cost. So purchasing equipment, making commitments, those are the kind of things that will allow us to do that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were, so the rule exists, and it's just, I'm sorry, I thought you're saying we're trying to create a rule that would enable it. That otherwise doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, I think there are two separate rules based on the megawatt size of the projects, and we're trying to take advantage of both pathways. Right. So this is just a reference to the focus on trying to preserve the credits in a different way for the smaller projects.
And the timetable for that is July 26th?
They start to sunset in July 2026. Yep. So we also put out a request for proposals to procure solar panels to help us safe harbor projects. That's another way that we're trying to pull as many projects forward. And big news today, in an effort to provide updates to the public and comply with the recent changes to the Public Authorities Law. Today, we're launching our online project dashboard on our NYPA public website, which will be an interactive website that was part of the recent legislation around our renewables work. So we're proud to be launching that in a timely way today. We're also on track to break ground in Q2 on a 20 megawatt project in Fort Edward that we were calling the Somers Solar Project. As we also know, expansion of the clean energy generation fleet, if you will, in the state requires a workforce that's prepared to meet that demand. And last month I mentioned that the NYPA clean energy, the NYPA-led clean energy workforce training is now in its second year. We're off to a great start in year one under that commitment that we made to spend up to $25 million per year on clean energy workforce training. We plan to launch 15 to 20 training programs in 2026 with the potential to reach an additional 10,000 students in 2026. We'll be seeking your approval to release up to $25 million for the fiscal 26-27 year as part of this ongoing commitment. And as we continue to advance the year's award, there's an additional recommendation for $5 million for training for the 25-26 period that you'll hear about later. This will authorize an additional 8 programs, providing training to an additional 1,000 students. And for many of these students, as we've talked to you about, what we provide in the way of wraparound and support services really can make the difference in training programs. This enables students to complete the programs debt-free, enter the marketplace with hands-on training, certifications, and potentially paid internships to follow. Couple just mentions of programs. We're proud to be working with the Non-Traditional Employment for Women program, which is an organization that prepares trains and places women in skilled trade careers. And it'll also with a provider that will, and we're also working with a provider that'll train and place 200 formerly incarcerated individuals across New York City, Buffalo, Rochester, and Albany. And the photo that you see here is a cohort of nine students that graduated. They're all in apprenticeships currently. It's a picture of the Capital Region, Hudson Valley, LIUNA trade effort. And they're all now in apprenticeships, as I said. And several of these graduates have taken more than 100 hours of training this winter. And this gives them a jump on completing the 400-hour training portion of their apprenticeships, speeding their way to becoming journey workers. And they'll also play a pivotal role in enabling and accelerating New York's clean energy transition. And later this morning, as I think we promised, Sandra Bleckman will be up to talk to you about a look back on our first year of the program, providing some metrics around outcomes and performance. So on the theme of innovation, training is one area where we're innovating, reaching out to underserved communities and training programs, helping with their needs. But when we take a big picture look at innovation, we've got some additional good news to report. A little background here. We recently invited EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, to benchmark the maturity of our innovation efforts. This was a refresh of a benchmark they did in 2022, which was around the launch time of the innovation office that I created back in 2022. So this is our first real look back at how we've done in terms of innovation and how we're benchmarked against some of our peers to get an idea of the maturity level of our effort and see how we compare to other utilities nationally and even globally. And I'm proud to say that work is paying off. We were recognized as a leader among public utilities in 3 key categories: strategy, structure, and culture. We scored well above the industry average. We think that's incredible progress in the 4 years since we first benchmarked the innovation office, and when we had kind of been in the mean and around average. And so the work is paying dividends so far. And you can see here on some of our achievements to date here. Through our Eureka program, we provided our people with support to develop their ideas and ultimately pitch to senior leaders. And I know in the past, several of you, if not all of you, have seen and met some of our Eureka winners over the years. We're proud of that effort. This surfaced 51 candidate ideas that might have maybe never been discovered if we haven't sort of pulled them out of the organization. And of that, 28 went on to the next stage toward implementation. Also, through our Innovation Champions program, we cultivate grassroots involvement, which has so far attracted 150 people to participate in innovation outreach projects. And in those projects, these champions help teams understand and participate in the innovation process, translating strategy into practical ideas and solutions to better serve our mission. 2 examples of projects that emerged from the Eureka process might be of interest to you. One is a drone imaging for asset monitoring, which will accelerate detection of environmental and structural changes in our assets. And that deployment is due in Q2 of this year. And another will help us define opportunities for NYPA to participate in vehicle-to-grid school bus charging by assessing technical feasibility and economic viability of our market. And we anticipate recommendations there by the end of 2026. So stay tuned. We'll have more fresh ideas coming out of our innovation efforts. And just last week, we launched our innovation dashboard internally on our intranet. And this will help our innovators manage the inventory of our projects, make a suite of efforts and our performance transparent across the whole organization, hopefully stimulating even more participation in our innovation efforts, particularly as they see the recognition that their colleagues get through some of these efforts and recognition of the creative thinking that they're bringing to the organization. So yeah, it's an ongoing effort. It's really good in terms of building talent and encouraging people to step out and put their ideas forward. And there are no bad ideas in this, right? We want everybody to feel comfortable and safe in bringing ideas out. No criticism involved. Not everyone's going to be selected, but just being in the process is a success as well. So finally, as I wrap up here on the nuclear front, I would like to give you an update there. Obviously, nuclear power back on the agenda globally after having been idled for several decades. Federal programs that we're watching carefully to try to build incentives to significantly alter the landscape and increase our nuclear output here in the U.S. I think I mentioned to you previously, back in October, the Commerce Department announced an $80 billion effort with Westinghouse to have 10 large nuclear reactors in construction by 2030, with a target to quadruple the country's advanced nuclear capacity by 2050. And just recently, 11 days ago, the US and Japan announced a $40 billion nuclear effort for small modular reactors, or SMRs, in Tennessee and Alabama through the Tennessee Valley Authority participation. As we all know, I think this is a long road, but at the same time, it's a fast moving. If those aren't inconsistent, it's a long road, but the work along the way is fast moving, particularly with all the developments, both nationally in terms of support and technology advancements and adoptions by others. So success for us depends on being prepared, moving intelligently and decisively when the conditions demand it. So to continue at that accelerated pace, before you today on the consent agenda is an item proposed to authorize authorize myself as NYPA president and CEO to enter into what we call meaningful non-binding agreements with others. This will provide NYPA with the flexibility needed to advance early stage work and emerging project development opportunities. I think, as I've mentioned to you before, there's so much coming at us in this space here. We want to be able to fully participate, but at the same time, we want people across the table to know that we're fully committed to this work, that we're going to deliver on this work as we always do, and to have the clear support of the board in these efforts. So this item is one of many that will come before you, but it's designed to send that signal both internally and to the external world that this is a really important, critical initiative that we have in front of us here, and the board is in support of those efforts.
And to make clear, we were part of the early mover group. I mean,
Yes.
we're all in on this, and we're leaning in, and I want to ensure you and the team are appropriately empowered, and that's clear and understood.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're very much in the game.
Exactly. We're, as you all know, we're learning a lot. We're still working through the RFIs. We're as knowledgeable in this space as anybody now, in my view. But we continue to lean in on it. One other example is we entered into an MOU with Ontario Power Generation, OPG. Now that work is starting to take off. And we have a number of work streams underway on community engagement, Indigenous community relations, workforce development, technology and siting considerations, as well as delivery models. So that work is advancing. They're going to be a great partner, and we'll learn a lot from them. As you know, they're kind of first in line. They're going to be the first in North America, certainly, that are going to construct an SMR there. So we'll learn a lot from them and how they establish the workforce and supply chain for their work. And also on the workforce front, just like I was talking about in renewables, we have a workforce effort in nuclear as well, with your commitment of $10 million over the next 4 years. So we're going to build out that work, just like we did the workforce on the clean energy renewables front. And we're also building up the internal staff within our nuclear team, again, like we did with renewables. And Todd has several solicitations out for key members of his team that I'm sure he'll be wanting to talk to you about, and looking for applications in that area, as well as on the workforce training front. So, like I said, there's a lot a lot going on in this space here. I'm going to ask Todd Josifovski to come up. I can either take questions at the end or here.
Well, before Todd comes up, yeah, any questions, thoughts? Yeah, kudos again on accomplishments, recognition. It's always great to be recognized externally, but far more importantly, to deliver the real results and outcomes day in and day out. So kudos to you and the team for that, and excited, as I said, to be part of the early mover group and affirm that on the nuclear front. But
Yeah.
Other thoughts, comments? Yeah, Lewis.
Just wanted to add, Justin, this is all state of the art. It's forward looking. It's positive for the state. It's positive for our region. It's positive for NYPA. I wonder on the workforce training development side, as we look at this NYPA Ontario Power partnership, if there's opportunities for us to partner closely with Indigenous communities upstate on some of these workforce development training.
I think there is. I mean, that's one of the areas that they are again ahead of us and have done well in developing relationships there and including and pulling people into the work. So we'll certainly be looking to draw upon that experience. And I agree. I think we can learn a lot from that and deploy some of those same approaches here.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? B, Cecily, Michael, Laurie, Dennis?
Say on the renewables front, excited that the dashboard is going live today. And I think on the consent agenda, we also have NYPA Reach and like the start of that program, which to the team, thank you to everyone. I mean, that program is so
Make sure you hit your mic there, Laura, so the world can hear you.
Sure. Trying to project, but between the dashboard, the NYPA Reach credits, which appear on the consent agenda, it's a really exciting time, and just appreciate the team for all their work on it, especially the reach piece is so important on that work.
I agree. And as you know, we've created the regulatory construct around reach so that should be a pretty seamless process now with the Public Service Commission having established the sort of the guardrails for the program.
Okay, you want to bring it, Todd?
Todd, would you like to come up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Justin, and good morning, Chairman and trustees. It's an exciting time for nuclear, and real great to be here today to give you a bit of an update. I'll be covering some of the recent developments in nuclear, then go over some key enablers that we're seeing in the industry, and then provide an update on our nuclear development progress here in the state of New York. So first thing, starting with some of the recent developments. Over the past year, what we're seeing is a clear shift. Nuclear is no longer theoretical now in terms of development. It's starting to move into real execution and planning phases around that. First, early projects are actually converting into committed builds. We're seeing projects, Justin mentioned, like TVA and also Holtec advance through licensing, with select projects beginning construction, like TerraPower, and something we haven't seen at scale in decades in the US. Also, VC Summer is on track to restart, with a developer recently being selected. And these are both meaningful signals that the industry is finally starting to turn a corner. Secondly, utilities are considering re-entering the space. For a long time, nuclear development has largely stalled, but now we're seeing incumbents like NextEra begin to seriously evaluate nuclear new builds, including about 6 gigawatts of small modular reactors, or SMRs, as Justin referred to them. At the same time, the industry is still testing how best to scale. But there isn't a single model yet in the industry. We're seeing restarts, uprates, life extensions, and new builds all progressing in parallel. This approach and that experimentation is important, as it's how the market will ultimately converge on the most scalable pathway for new nuclear and nuclear development. And finally, advanced technologies are continuing to evolve. For years, these technologies were discussed as future solutions. But today, there's a range of pathways, including the SMRs and other advanced technologies that are still actively being developed and refined, with ongoing innovation shaping performance, cost, and applicability. More importantly, this momentum is now being reinforced by a set of key structural enablers. So So moving over to some of those key structural enablers, what's different this time? And what's really underpinning this momentum is that a number of structural barriers that have historically held nuclear back are starting to come down. First, on the financing side, federal funding and support mechanisms are materially de-risking projects. Through the Department of Energy's loan programs and direct funding initiatives like advanced reactor development programs, we're seeing government step in to support first-of-a-kind projects. This is really helping us bridge the gap on early economics and making projects more bankable. Second, on the regulatory front, the NRC is placing greater focus on advanced reactors and looking at ways to streamline licensing. So for example, they're looking at capping decisions to 18 months for renewals and 12 months, 18 months for licensing and 12 months for renewals. So this is a really critical step forward because historically timelines and regulatory uncertainty have been major constraints for nuclear development. Third, we're seeing a significant—
What is 18 and 12 compared to? It still sounds like a long time. So what were they? Why is that?
Yeah, I think what they're saying before, it was plus 12 months up to 2 years and longer. I think they're just experiencing delays. I'll have to get back to you in the details on that, but it was much longer. Now they're restructuring a lot of the NRC to make sure that they meet these timelines. And it was really something that was through an executive order that was put forward. Okay, we're also seeing a significant influx of capital into the sector too. That includes both domestic investment and international capital. Justin mentioned the $40 billion investment announcement from Japan, a really critical investment, and a lot more is expected on that front. And this is really important for nuclear because traditionally it's struggled to attract large scale private capital, and that dynamic is finally starting to change. And also, finally, we're seeing new entrants reshape how projects are developed and financed. Hyperscalers, developers, and other private players are stepping in as partners, bringing new financing models and creating more flexible deployment pathways. So taken together, what you're seeing is alignment across policy, regulation, capital, and market participants. And that alignment is really what's enabling nuclear to move from concept to execution in a way that we haven't seen in decades. So a little bit more now, providing an update on our nuclear development progress. Just advance the slide here, and there we go. Yeah, so what we're trying to do at NYPA here is build on that momentum. So NYPA has actively engaged the market and trying to understand how to translate that market response into a viable deployment in New York State. In October, we issued 2 separate requests for information from project partners and communities, and the response was really strong. We received approximately 30 submissions across developers, technology providers, EPC firms, owners, engineers, and communities. What's really notable here is the breadth of interest that we received. On the developer and technology side, we're seeing participation across the full ecosystem for nuclear development. Established players like Constellation and Westinghouse, advanced reactor developers like TerraPower and X Energy, as well as other new entrants that you can see here on the slide. We're also seeing stronger engagement from EPC contractors and owner engineers like the AECOMs and the WSPs of the world, which is really critical for our development and execution. And just as importantly, and maybe most importantly, we're seeing interest from communities across the state. From counties to cities to industrial sites, there's clear interest in hosting advanced nuclear, driven by potential for economic development, workforce creation, and long-term energy reliability.
Are there key players missing from this list, or are we getting interest from all those that we would otherwise want to play?
Yeah, I think this list, it definitely has interest from the established players like the Westinghouse, the large reactor suppliers, the SMRs, the small modular reactor OEMs are also interested. And also we received interest from microreactors, which is a newer emerging technology, advanced nuclear technology. So we are seeing interest across all elements of the ecosystem, including the reactor providers and technology.
So if we put this list together ourselves, rather than let it come to us, it's pretty comprehensive. You feel good about it, as opposed to there aren't major players that, you know, haven't put their hand up or expressed interest that we otherwise want to or would want to engage.
Yeah, I think this covers a vast gambit of them. I think what we're seeing too is some, even in the community space, we see communities coming forward after the RFI response.
Yep.
And then a lot of the ecosystem.
Which is going to be my next question, but keep going.
Yep. Yeah, so along with the ecosystem, we definitely know the main players and the partners that we would talk to if they weren't on this list.
And so the community front, you're pleased with, that level of response, or
yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's incredible to see this so much positivity.
Put their hand up for this, right?
Yeah, and say, hey, we're a willing host community in upstate New York.
Yeah,
they see the economic development benefits. A lot of them have existing operations in their areas, and I think there's a real, a great response. And then, like I said, there's also communities coming after the RFI process, which are open to express an interest to us. So it's really. 8 are listed here, but it's growing. So, which is a really great place to be for nuclear development and having willing host communities support nuclear.
It's also an opportunity, it strikes me, for New York State NYPA to continue to position ourselves as an attractive market for nuclear development, right? And it's different. Dennis and I was just chatting. It's different upstate versus downstate, because upstate there's tons of interest, as you see from these responses. Downstate is different, but the wider across the country, folks think sometimes about New York as being downstate, Long Island, et cetera. But upstate, this is a super attractive list of counties, communities that actually want to be partners with us in the state.
Well, the real action's upstate.
Yeah. I understand that. But again, we can position ourselves, nationally, right? The game is all upstate here.
Yeah, I mean, for the state and for NYPA in particular, just to be part of this initiative and be considered to be, key players is something that's driving the enthusiasm here, and I think it'll be good for the state.
Yeah, like the best sports teams, as John would say, are all upstate. They're not.
Well, you said it, Lewis. I don't have to,
It's factually correct. The Bills versus Jets and Giants is actually correct.
Now the Sabres, right in there.
The Sabres.
Okay, but back on point. So you're pleased with where we are at this early stage?
Yeah, so I would say I always kind of use an analogy like a sport. We're in the first inning of this this whole development strategy. We're just getting started. So, but we have a great positive response and really great getting out of the gates to get started. So,
because if you roll the slide back one, just play off of that point a little bit. So in terms of what technology, what geography, what we're doing, how we're doing it, there's just a long way to go here. It's always once you open this up and get it going, now everyone's anxious for answers, but there's a lot to be done, I'm assuming, before we're in a position to even imply specific direction on, what technology we're using, let alone who we're partnering with, geographies, et cetera. Is that a fair summation?
Yeah, it's a fair summation. We're definitely early days, and we're thinking of next or nth of a kind technologies that we're considering for the project, and really around pathways that are available to enable advanced nuclear development. So it's early days. We still haven't selected a technology, but we're considering the ones that meet the best characteristics of developing and shaping the project.
And back to Lewis's point, compared to the other 50, where is New York State in the landscape? Where do we sit in terms of being a player or a willing, wanting player in the spectrum?
Yeah, there's other projects that are being advanced. I think we're as part of the first mover group, but there are other states that are looking at demonstration projects. They're looking at SMRs and backstopping. And some have started some construction, like in Wyoming. I think TerraPower started construction. The TVA is also looking at Clinchford River. It's in regulatory review. X Energies, they have a Dow project in Texas. So we're really in the first phase of first movers across the state. I would say there's a half a dozen or so that have started some early works and permitting, and some have started construction on the new technologies.
Okay, and the hyperscalers, in terms of their impact, what's your editorialize on that a little bit for the uneducated.
Yeah, so the hyperscalers, that could be everything from, a data center to a large manufacturing facility.
Right.
There's a real need for an industrial power and stable power, firm baseload power, and they're very interested in getting that type of power that supports their business. So they're definitely part of the new entrants that they didn't exist, called like 10, 20 years ago. And you can see that, in the media too, and, the big data centers that are looking to secure power for their operations.
Questions for Todd? It's this is a marathon, not a sprint, whatever other metaphors, but at the same time, we're running hard. We're not just easing our way into this. We're coming out running hard. So, yeah, great to see this level of high quality as well as good quantity response on all fronts. So, appreciate that as well. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Okay. Joe, you guys coming up?
Bring some muscle.
Yeah, the years, it's been an interesting first couple months, 3 months here. I know we've talked a little bit about the challenges that we've navigated, and you guys in particular, and all the rest of that. So you're going to get into that a little bit, but yeah, floor is here. The podium is yours.
Thanks, Chairman, and hello to the trustees, the public, and staff. I'm going to offer the Chief Operating Officer's report, but I did bring some muscle with me to talk about some of the details that the Chairman just referred to. We're going to build, first of all, on the theme that Justin talked about regarding people, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the EH&S efforts that we have for staff, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the training that we have, and then we'll follow that with kind of a case study of what we saw in January and February around our water management, some of the things we did for some of the winter conditions that will build and bridge to Adam's report and how that impacted us financially and so forth. So with that, I thought it'd be great to bring in a subject matter expert on the power generation and waterways, which is our SVP of Power Generation Waterways, Brian Sayers, to do the report for you. So, Brian.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, Chairman, trustees, colleagues, members of the public. So we'll start off talking about the environmental health and safety initiatives that are going on right now. Obviously, EH&S is paramount to everything we do, and we have a very important mission to carry out, but we have to do it safely and we have to respect the environment. So we kicked off, we're doing a lot of initiatives under the leadership of Steve Rutledge as we try to strive for this continuous improvement. So we kicked off what we're calling the Campaign for Zero this winter. Trying to strive for, the goal is always to have zero injuries, right? We don't want anybody getting hurt, although this is a very oftentimes hazardous and dangerous work that we do. So we kicked that off this winter. It consisted of a number of weekly tailgate talks. So we selected topics that were relevant to the work that we're doing the best we can and spread that out across the authority. We also posted a lot of educational materials on the website that people could refer to. And we did these monthly roundup emails that kind of kept an awareness across the NYPA and canals on where we stand and what they should be aware of as they go through their days. Now, unfortunately, through all this, we always do have some injuries. So we did have 10 recordable injuries for OSHA in the first 2 months, and now I'm told that's up to 11 injuries. As far as recordables, 4 of those were related to cold weather exposure. So, that just proves, luckily, the severity is fairly minor, but there's always work to do to make that better. So we'll continue that work. We have a lot going on. We're going to be focusing a lot on the planning of the work and the job site communications with briefings. So we were doing a lot of work with the IBEW upstate as far as our generation transmission union up there, and we've been all discussions with UWA that, this is a focus area that we want to go for. So also on the canals front, a lot of discussion there. So we do expect that we're going to make some good strides coming up here in the near future. we kicked off this Why I Work Safely campaign to try to remind ourselves that, we all have lives outside of work and we need to do our jobs safely and effectively and then get home to our family and friends. So this involved a photo submissions project, which started in November. So these photos were taken and turned into banners, and it kind of helps us remind ourselves of the human aspects of what we do. So we have to look out for our own safety and also the safety of the people that we work with every day. So it's a nice way for us to remind ourselves of the important work we're doing here. In addition to that, I do have really a great announcement to make that every year the American Public Power Association, they have their APA Safety Award of Excellence for the year. So for 2025, proud to announce that we once again achieved the diamond level. So this is a very high level of standards. So it involves a detailed survey that we fill out, answer a lot of questions, and we achieved that level. So very proud of that. So, great work by the team. And if you ever saw the survey, it is very detailed. So just goes to show that we do have a very good program here at NYPA. So
Well done.
next slide, please. Sorry, one back. Okay, so continuing on the people front. So obviously with all the Vision 2030 initiatives that we have going on, we have to focus internally on making sure that our people are up to speed and ready to go to take on all these challenges. So, we're trying to leverage, this is through our technical training department within utility operations. We're really trying to put a focus on leveraging what external education is available out there and using that as much as we can. So that we can then focus on the internally to the details that apply just to NYPA, that we develop those in-house. So on the cohort learning front, the energy business program, we've partnered with Siemens, who has some very good programs for the general overall business view, which is the energy business program. So as we get professionals that join NYPA or they get into a new role, we want them to get up to speed as fast as possible, really get comfortable with their work so that they can move on and as quickly as possible become proficient here. So the power technology program is focused more towards engineers, but also done by Siemens. So it helps them learn all the details of relaying and all those things that are out there. Finally, we're going to do an internal one, Ops 101 onboarding program, where we really develop something that helps people when they come to NYPA learn how the system works, learn how to find the things that they need, how the entire environment plays together, because we really have a lot of area where we can improve that to help them get up to speed quicker than they do now. The training pathways segment, the department is, we've done a lot of good work with the IBEW and the apprentice programs upstate over the past several years, and very proud of the work we've done there. Essentially, what we came up with there was curriculums for each role of how they get up to speed, and it's working very well. We're trying to do something similar now for different management roles and things like that. So if we have a supervisor or planner, we can develop a curriculum to make sure that they get the training they need to really excel with that as soon as possible. So very excited about that. There's moving on to bridging skill gaps. There's a lot of things out there, the professional engineering licenses and things like that we want to make sure that we have a program developed for people to get up to speed as soon as they can with that. So a lot of good work coming, with technical training. Any questions?
Are these opportunities we present, or are there expectations and requirements for advancement that include the presumption that you're taking advantage of passing, achieving certifications, et cetera? Give us a little more there. Frank.
Yeah, I think it's a variety, depending on the role that they're in.
Okay.
Certainly for an engineering curriculum or a career track, you have to get a PE license to get to certain levels and do certain jobs. If you're looking at a supervisor role, something like that, we're trying to focus on that to make sure that they're more proficient. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really, there's such a diversity of needs and roles that we have here. So it's really, we're trying to focus on, the specific needs of the different roles. Okay, next slide. Okay, so obviously it was a very tough winter. We all know how the weather went there. Starting off with the Canal Corporation. On the Mohawk River between blocks 7 and 8, we've always had a major issue with ice jamming that mostly affects the Stockade district of Schenectady. So over the past several years, we've been working with Clarkson University and Union College, USGS, and others to try to come up with a way to mitigate that. So we ended up coming to a decision to try to do some ice breaking. So we worked with a third-party contractor, New York State Marine Highway, who have some fairly large ice breakers, and they've been running through that through that section for us and keeping it open. And so far, we're seeing some pretty good success with that. So with that, as we're replacing the aging tugs for the canals, part of the specs that we put in there was to try to build these tugs that we can use for other things, but also then use them for some ice breaking. So we've had this year we have the Thomas Grosso out there breaking ice. So our crews have been learning from Marine Highway on the different techniques and things like that go into this. So over time, if we're able to keep up with thinner ice, we might be able to do it ourselves and not have to go outside. So nice success there. Pump outs, we've had, we have 57 locks, so we always have our pump out outages during the winter. We had 5 pump outs in the east, 4 in the west this year. And these are very extensive operations, which, it's very challenging with weather and everything else, but very good success on those. Next slide, please. Okay. So the winter conditions here. So obviously the temperatures were very low. Downstate, we had obviously the limitations on the natural gas, which we have the operational flow orders that come through. Essentially with that, excuse me a second. Essentially with the operational flow orders, we have restrictions in the natural gas system due to the heating loads have to take over for the most of the fuel. Excuse me a second.
While you get yourself focused, so this is an effort to show the relative. I mean, we all know it was cold and it was extended, so this suggests, looking back 15 years, we're clearly, in a real trough here, or we're in a real trough.
Right. Okay, so essentially we have to switch over to, I'm sorry, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so southeast New York. So, normally we're running on natural gas, and for our emissions requirements, we have to demineralize water, which we inject into the injectors, and that in the combustion chamber. And what that does is really reduces the NOx emissions down to a minimum level. And then we introduce the ammonia into the system to keep the levels down. So once we get into fuel oil, it's much more challenging to meet those requirements and to keep it down. So essentially, what we have to do then is we're bringing in these demineralized trailers, which we have to take the city water and then we have to treat that. So as we bring through the trailers, we have to keep swapping them out. They're only good for about 2 days a piece. And as you can see with the winter conditions there, it turns into a big challenge to allow for the operator to keep up with that. So we are very proud of the success that we had as far as keeping the systems going and meeting those expectations. Obviously the desire here is to have the natural gas used primarily because it's lower emissions. But when we have to keep the system going, we get into the fuel oil. We have to meet those.
So tell me again how the natural gas was impacted.
So the natural gas gets diverted to the heating loads primarily. So there's limitations on what the pipelines can have for Zeltman and Flynn. And then the LN6000s also are, out of service because they're not dual fuel units. So, thank you.
Okay, so the extreme temperatures caused the diversion of natural gas from what we would typically
Right.
expect. So we had to substitute or swap that out.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So the natural gas, because it has to be diverted to the heating loads, we have to keep the power system going. We have to rely more on the liquid fuel, and because Zeldman and Flint are dual fuel units, we're allowed to we're able to use that fuel oil to keep the lights on. I mean, obviously, overall the goal is to go to renewable energy and to have the zero emissions.
Right.
But in the meantime, we have to with these projects, they have to be available when the power demand is there.
And how atypical was the circumstance?
It's fairly typical as far as the winter goes. We do expect to see on a regular basis where the natural gas system gets constrained.
Okay.
So it's not that unusual, but it is really where we get to show that we are available when the system needs us, and we're able to deliver when that time comes.
Judd, I think just a little bit. One of the things that, for clarification, is the duration. The duration was significantly longer than we typically see.
Yeah.
So this is typical of like a vortex that we had in maybe 2012, 13 in that area as well. But one of the nuances that that Brian touches on here on this demineralized water is a lot of people don't. We actually store demineralized water for this, and we usually have capacity to do whatever we need in terms of monitoring the emissions. But because of the duration of it, we actually depleted some of the stored demineralized water, brought in trailers that can convert it to demineralized water, and those had to be constantly changed. So the ducks paddling under the water in terms of Brian's team, Ed Zeltman and Flynn, to keep these units running for the reliability of the system was really impressive. But that was a longer duration.
Okay, and so that was what was atypical here.
Yes.
So while what we're doing isn't, but for the length of time we did, back to why it was January, early
Exactly.
February was an aberration.
Exactly. The duration, and both in the ice management upstate, which Brian will touch on a little bit, but also the CNE management of those fossil fuel plants was more of an aberration because of the duration of the cold.
Yeah. So it's just credit to the good work that we're able to do. So Thank you, Joe. Okay, we'll go on to the upstate now. Next slide. All right. So forward, please. Okay, so as we get around to the upstate regions, still a very hard winter, as we all know. St. Lawrence project operated seamlessly. We didn't have too many issues with the ice jamming or anything like that, so they were able to continue with that base load very well. Glenn-Gilboa had a very good winter as far as responding to the peak demands. BG was there when it was needed and was able to generate a lot of good revenue for NYPA. What we're seeing at BG, which is very interesting also, is with all the solar coming on, is we're starting to pump during the daytime more, which is something we never saw before. We see that more out in California, but it's kind of a new thing for us there. Now we get off into Niagara. That's where things got challenging, as I think we were all aware of. Niagara winters, I grew up in upstate New York in the northern Catskills, and I thought I knew what a winter was, but then I transferred to University of Buffalo in January in the 90s from Daytona Beach, Florida, and I learned what a real winter is. So the wind, particularly that comes off the lake, has a big effect up there. So what we saw this winter was a reduction on average about 20% in the river flows through the Niagara River. And that really constrained what we were able to use at the project.
The reduction was due to the wind.
Yeah, the main reduction in this case was due to the wind. They call it the seiche. Seiche. So for those who aren't as familiar, the Lake Erie is relatively shallow. So as the wind is blowing the wind towards Buffalo, it raises the elevation near Buffalo, and it increases the flows through the river. When it goes the other way, we have the opposite effect, and it really cuts it back. So you couple that with the fact that we're always concerned about the ice issues in the river, because you don't want it to clog up. In this case, it was not an ice issue as far as clogging up the intakes. You can see from the picture on the top there that we have been able to do a very good job with the ice breaking. So that's the Latham on the Niagara side. And The ice breaking mainly is done in the vicinity of the intakes where the water goes into the tunnel to the project. But in this, so in this case, our team does a great job with watching the wind forecast, with watching the markets, and bidding us into the markets appropriately in order to be able to deal with this. What happened in this case, unfortunately, is that the wind dropped off. It was basically I think it was a east, blowing from the west to the east. So we had all the water coming, and then it dropped off suddenly. So when that dropped off, what happens is the water sloshes back, almost like a bathtub. And when that happened, suddenly, like a day or so before it was supposed to, we were in a little bit of a difficult position as far as meeting our generation requirements. So that was really the impact that we had. The ice procedures were followed well, but our team at ERM and finance and others, operations at Niagara, I think did an excellent job in reacting to this and shifting around, where we were purchasing the power, where we were, St. Lawrence was able to contribute some to this as well. But the impact was real as far as what we saw in our bottom line. So, overall, it just goes to show that there's a lot of challenges that go into running this stuff, and sometimes plan as you may, and we try to watch forecasts and do everything we can. Sometimes we do get bit, but I think we're a resilient system and we were able to react to that quite well. So, any other questions on that?
Yeah, because you showed us in finance, the impact on Niagara operations was dramatic, at least from what it typically is. The steady Eddie, old reliable, boom, was major impact, right?
Correct. We'll show it.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah. Joe.
Yeah, exactly. That. It was, again, more of an anomaly. The levels of the water. I think one of the things, if you get to visit Niagara, that we should do is kind of give you a view of that area sometime for the intakes, because you'll see where River Control, which is actually operated by OPG, Ontario Power Gen, in close collaboration with us, manages the water levels as well. So we're actually always trying to thread a needle in terms of like, when do they start? One of the mechanisms they use, for example, is when there does start to gather some ice, they'll flush it. We'll get constrained then too, because they'll use the water to go over the falls and flush it. So a lot of times they're maneuvering that water in collaboration with us, and it does impact our systems. In this case, as Brian points out, it's more of a wind issue than an ice issue, but on occasion we have that as well. And it has real value impacts to us at Niagara. That a lot of times when the wind is westerly and it's a nice sunny day, that's good for us. Water's going over the falls, it's going through the machines. And that's good. And when it's not, then we get that constraint. So it does have an impact to the bottom line.
There was a negative $26 million miss for Niagara for the first 2 months. Sorry, it was a $26 million miss for Niagara for the first 2 months.
And the reason for that, just so I understand it, as a non-engineer, is that we have to go out in the market and buy more power because Niagara is generating less power itself.
That's exactly right. And because of the fuel issues that were going on at the same time throughout the system, the fuel prices and the market power was extremely high compared to other times that this happens.
Got it. At that time, you're at
correct. How you substitute and compensate. Yes. The cost of doing that is more onerous.
Right.
Perfect storm, one of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Okay. That's all I had for you.
All right, Brian, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Brian, thank you.
Mother Nature reminding us who's in charge.
I just said something. You think you can control, you think you can hedge, you think you can do things, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. The good news is it's not very often, right? I mean, Adam, Joe, This is a real aberration. I don't remember when I've last seen Niagara, impacted that way from a financial standpoint anyway.
No, not since I've been here. And it's, there's a lot of good takeaways from it. Obviously, Brian hit on all the operational maneuvering that was done, trying to be agile. As you can see here, this is where I referred to, well, we'll get into the next slide, but the good news of all of it is even the challenges at the beginning of February, we went back to normal and we had a very strong February. So we recovered whatever we were down in January and some. So we're, back ahead of target. So, all's well and back onto smooth sailing. So I think that's the punchline of that. But it did, prove a lot of those points and others that we'll get into. But as you can see here, we are ahead of target through the first 2 months. Next slide. So this is sort of like, the puts and takes, winners and losers, whatever you want to call it. But that's where you can see the Niagara being $26 million down from the budget. Now, the other big takeaway here is that over time, between other parts of our business, we've been able to diversify our source of revenue. So there was a time when if Niagara had a month like this, that was it, right? There was no offset, there was no recovery. But here we have other areas that were making up that loss and some. So that's another big good sign. As Brian mentioned too, we're able to utilize St. Lawrence to take care of some of our needs. And BG had a strong month. Flynn actually had a reasonable month operationally, but what they were able to do was actually sell some of their fuel positions at a significant gain to offset or help provide an additional revenue source to the bottom line. So that was also good thinking on the behalf of the people running Flynn and managing all of that they were saw an opportunity where they could get the oil at a reasonable price and cheap and be able to sell out a gas position. So they actually made a significant amount of money on that, about $10 million. So all of those things and being able to operate the small clean plants in the city where there was additional demand because of peak cold, providing that reliability need. So all of that together shows resiliency, diversification, ability to take on a blow at a major asset, right, and be able to respond and overcome that. So I think those are some of the big and strong takeaways. And I'll go to another one in terms of impact. Well, this is just some of the stats Brian was talking about, but yes, higher heating degree days than normal average. You can see the energy prices, that both and sometimes can help us in terms of generating more revenue, but in times when we have to go out and purchase energy in the markets, as we do for some of our customers, or in this case, we had to purchase also just to meet some of our own needs. We're going to spend a lot more money because the prices were almost 100% higher than the 5-year average. And you can see also our hydro production for the large hydros is down by 16%. So overall generation was down. So it was a significant stretch of time for us that we hadn't seen in quite some time. But I'll go to the next one, show sort of one of the positive things that came out of it was how we're able to help our customers. So this is for our CNE customers, which includes New York City, MTA, New York City Housing Authority, Port Authority. I'd say city, we were just meeting with the city yesterday. They make up about 40% of this number. We were able to demonstrate to them how we performed on their behalf during these 2 months. So this shows that for the 2 months, they saved as a group $100 million versus what they would have paid had they not been a NYPA customer and been buying through Con Ed. That's significant money for 2 months.
Repeat that again?
Yeah. So for the 2 months, they paid.
The they is
the CNE governmental customers,
Okay.
New York City, MTA, Port Authority, New York City Housing Authority. They saved $100 million versus what they would have paid had they not been a NYPA customer and just buying through Con Ed.
Yeah.
That's
For 2 months.
For 2 months.
Wow, it's a pretty astounding number.
It's an astounding number.
And Adam, and I guess Joe as well, and Brian. So how many years has this resiliency been built into our system to get to this point? I mean, it strikes me it's been like 3, 4, 5 years, but this is the pinnacle of NYPA's operational efficiency and financial efficiency. So I'm just curious, how many years has this been built?
I think it's been built for a number of years, but I think it's come into play more recently. I
Yeah,
think that's the issue is the resilient. We've always had that sense of resilience on the diversity of our fuel source, energy sources to manage the system. But I don't think it's ever come into play as more obviously as it has in the last couple of months.
My time and tenure, I think just the volatility, the extremes it's just more. As Adam saying, we're seeing what we haven't seen before.
Right.
In his time and tenure, this is a one-off. This isn't the fourth time that this has happened. This is the first time this has happened. But like everything else, the one-offs are becoming, I won't say the norm, but less infrequent.
Right. So we did a number of things for these governmental customers that they couldn't get elsewhere. So we've hedged on their behalf 300 megawatts. And at a very favorable price, significantly, maybe a third of the price they probably would have paid otherwise. The Zeltman plant that we contracted and actually built for their use because they needed the in-city capacity. The way that works is they pay the fixed costs of the plant. So we get all of our recovery for what it costs us to run the plant. And they get the revenues that come off the plant in Zone J. So particularly in times like this, when the prices were high, they're actually getting a net benefit on their cost, which is offsetting their other market purchases that they do up in Zone A and D, which is upstate. They bring it down to the city through these favorable TCC contracts, transmission congestion charge contracts. But prices go higher in Zone J, offsets the higher prices in Zone A and D, acts as a natural hedge for them. So between those two, it's 800 megawatts that were being hedged on their behalf, so they didn't get hit with those higher prices that others would be. And a lot of customers you're going to hear from a lot as they get their bills all throughout the state are going to see some big numbers come across their bills. So this was a tremendous savings and really couldn't come at a better time in a way because as Maribel could tell you, we're starting our discussions with those customers for the renewal of our long-term agreement, which is going to be ending in 2027. So we're starting those discussions now. And it's things like this that show the benefit of being a NYPA customer. We have delivery charges that are cheaper than their alternative. We have certain exemptions that don't pass on to every other utility. So all of that is tremendous value to these customers, not to mention all the work we do on energy efficiency and electric vehicles and charging and all the other major benefits we provide to those customers, but really savings, particularly at a time when these entities, especially New York City, is under fiscal stress. So the partnership that we have here is really valued, I believe, at this time. So this is another good example of the case study of when you have an extreme event where being our customer really pays off.
That's kudos. I mean, it's why I wanted to spend a little time here because to me it's very intriguing. It's an aberration on one hand, but shows how well prepared we have been and are for it, and more importantly, can respond. And ultimately, the customer is the one who benefits. So, yeah.
There's a as Chairman Koelmel says, there's a nice case study here from a communications perspective as well, Charles, as we think about what we do in the investments that we need to help the state. And again, you're talking about these downstate customers, the city, MTA, et cetera, that they got to perform. They have to be able to deliver.
Once again, upstate came through for downstate.
Is the ISO, is the New York State ISO partnering with you guys when you're thinking about these extreme weather events, like on a minute by
very
minute
much
basis?
Yeah, very much. We're in constant communication with the New York ISO and also in our planning process, because some of the things that we have to make sure that we preserve is these are weather events, but we also will see when the generation mix with the introduction of renewables and the future nuclear, these assets, especially the hydro assets, will swing wildly. to balance that system. And how do we recoup that, the wear and tear that goes on those machines versus run of the river is significantly different. So they've been good partners in listening to us as we try to monetize that or describe what that is through Chris Fry's group and Carly Hume's group.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I also think there's an opportunity for like Project Propel to get that message out downstate that you need more transmission assets into Long Island, for example, Long Island, John, into Long Island, so that when you have these extreme events, whether it's weather, pricing, et cetera, whether it's whether it's weather, pricing, or any extreme events, you got to have transmission lines into densely populated centers like Nassau and Suffolk County. That's why Propel is important. So, we got to figure out a way.
Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Long-term gain. We got to figure.
The benefits to our work are across the board, right? And it's incumbent upon us to keep telling that story.
Yeah. No, that's an important story. So when folks think specifically, my neighbors in Nassau and Suffolk County, when they think not in my backyard, you won't think that if there's a extreme weather event 2 or 3 weeks, when you actually need to balance out the load and the grid across New York State.
Agreed.
We also learned a lot from not only Hurricane Sandy, which happened there around the diversity and the way we operate, but also Hurricane Maria and how Puerto Rico responded. So we learned a lot from that as well.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you and kudos to the entire operational team. But this is a great partnership between finance, operations, and eventually our nuclear team and our sustainability and renewals team. This is fabulous, a fabulous story.
And how about how our employees are working together across various disciplines, right? Everybody has a different position to play on the field, but works as a team. So it's overall good story. And just to put just to finish the presentation here, just again, our end of year projection, we still have us meeting our target. So again, good news that we're back on track and everything's well.
We're still tracking.
Still tracking first quarter.
March.
Too early to tell. We don't know.
Come on, it's March 31.
Where's Sunday? I don't know.
Okay. I mean, come on now. You got your finger on the
We'll tell you 5 days after.
Yeah.
Close the books.
Come on. All right. Okay. Well, I thank you, Joe, Brian, for the time. Said wanted to shine a light on it. Educational, informative for us as well as others, but frankly, also a little bit of pat on the back for your ability to make lemonade out of lemons here. No question about it. So yeah,
great job.
As Lewis said, kudos. And anything else from anybody? Cecily, Michael. All right, everybody good?
Good.
Okay, great. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Okay, Alexis. As we're zigging and zagging through their assorted risks, as we've just demonstrated, and proving that we're very resilient. So, good transition to you.
Well, thank you. So, good morning, colleagues, trustees, and members of the public. Our people have been a key theme through many of the discussions today and through the committee meetings throughout the month of March. So, if we can go to the next slide, please. Oh, genius. Our risk spotlight today is going to be around our people-related enterprise risk, which is described as attract, develop, and retain a qualified and diverse workforce. If we start by looking on the left-hand side of the slide, both for NYPA and for canals, this risk is rated low in terms of its overall scoring. The controls scores are indicating that it's well managed, and that's why we see the speedometer in the green area. And both for NYPA and canals, the risk is within its risk appetite. If we look for a moment to the right-hand side, we just wanted to give you a little bit of an understanding of what comprises the enterprise risk. And underneath that lie our operational risks. These constitute the risk registers in every business throughout NYPA and canals. And it gives you a little bit of an idea of the types of people-related risks that roll into this. So you'll see ones around attracting talent, retaining, things around competing priorities, around succession planning, around change management. Again, many of the themes that we've been discussing over the course of the month. This is actually the enterprise risk that has the greatest number of underlying operational risks. And what that tells us is that we are organizationally aware of the criticality of our people to the delivery of our vision and objectives. Pause for a moment. So in saying that our risk is well managed and the scores are low and we're within appetite, what are some of the things we're doing well? So you've heard much of that already today. So a bit of this will be just hopefully connecting some dots and bringing back some pieces of our theme together. So first of all, we've seen positive trends in terms of our own employees responding to surveys related to what it's like to work here at NYPA and Canals. So the recognition that Justin presented on this morning, and we've heard before about Forbes magazine, again, our employees are the ones who fill out the surveys that then go into the Forbes assessment and then get fed back to us as a result. You've heard through some of our committee meetings around our employee engagement survey and the results, and that not only do we have greater numbers of participants over the years, but we've also been trending towards higher degrees of overall engagement. These are very, very positive feedbacks to us, again, from the voice of our own people. If we look at, we've heard a lot about employee training and professional development. So that would span things like we heard of this morning from Joe and Brian around in operations, our technical learnings. And it would even include things like the new managers, foundational courses that we've developed. And I cannot help but plug the Risk Liaison program that's rolled out, our Innovation Champions. Risk Liaison program just completed the first of its 2 years, and we're seeing the cohort extremely engaged and learning both on the technical as well as soft skill aspects of the program. A few other things I wanted to point out too is, of course, we remain focused on inclusivity and also accessibility, and we've heard that across NYPA as well as Canals. We see things like a really active employee-led employee resource groups, which are making this a very inclusive environment. For change management, we are building that into the front end of our most key and pervasive projects across the organization, such as Luminate. And that is so critical because what that does is it helps to set our employees up for success, so that when we are using new systems, new tools, when we are putting new expectations and requirements upon them, that they're ready and they feel supported through the change. So it's actually a really critical element and a key mitigation that we focus on. Another one I'd like to point out is it sounds maybe something we wouldn't consider for this category, but over the course of last year, we did a lot of work around management committee governance. And that's the governance levels below your level, where we're internally within the organization, looking at everything from roles and responsibilities to decision rights, and making sure that it's clear for our employees that they know who's in the position to make the decision. And it really helps to foster that sense of accountability. And when there's a sense of accountability, again, that leads to deeper engagement across our business. Of course, we're facing headwinds. And so if we look to what are we monitoring and what are we trying to plan for, we've spoken quite a bit about shifting expectations, both for skills and for resources across our industry. And so, of course, certainly within NYPA. This would include everything from nuclear to renewables, our use of AI tools, like we heard this morning, even from IA. And oh gosh, it really is hard to flip those acronyms. Sorry, I had to really think that through before I said it. We think about our resource needs for our growing transmission base and our transmission organization, thinking about its operating model 10 years out at this point under Transmission 2035. In the meantime, we face competition for talent because there are other players, both traditionally in our industry as well as outside of it, that are also looking to bring in the right types of skill sets and professionals and trades into their organization. hot commodity, of course, have been our engineers. And so really great that we heard this morning, again, reinforce that we got a great ranking in Forbes for a great place for starting engineers to be working. Hopefully, these are some of the things that will help us to attract that talent. We also hear, of course, from Sandra, and around clean energy workforce, right? Both in the renewable space and now more recently for renewables. But to connect the dots here, there can be possible funding for training that we may be able to utilize ourselves. We are helping to build a talent pool across the state. But of course, that means that some of those cohorts that graduate might be in the market and might be coming to be part of some of the investments that we are actually making. And then third, of course, in doing this work, we're building our brands and reputation across the state as an employer and as an entity that is helping to spur and support the growth of the clean energy business across the state. So again, very attractive. We've talked about the leadership development curriculum, and just a recap on that as well, that it highlights a lot of the soft skills, the enterprise-wide level thinking, managing through ambiguity and change. And that's something that every single one of us at every level of leadership and below is really focused on. And lastly, just something else we're just keeping our eye on is, of course, we will have labor contract negotiations not too far in the future. We have some contracts that begin to expire as early as the summer of 2027. So that would be just kind of a quick summary of some of the things that we're trying to look at as we go forward.
Okay, great.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
If there's a gap, do you see gaps that you think we need to pay attention to?
Gaps
And
that we
what
pay
are
attention to. So I think that's what we do see sometimes in our operational risk registers. We've noted right now, again, competition for some talent in the energy space in particular. There are some challenges that our Canals Corporation has faced. And so one of the important things that have happened here as well was modernizing the civil service title structures. I know we didn't point that out very well, developing apprenticeship programs, and also working with the Department of Labor to help to look at different types of candidates that we might be able to attract into Canals. And so that would depend on each business unit but engineers, again, as well, we have some really exciting and attractive projects, which is to our benefit. And those are probably the pockets that we see the most, and they will evolve over time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And I just think about, we had a little bit of a conversation around how to engage with our seasonal employees, right?
Yeah.
And to build in them an affinity to the organization beyond seasonal. I think about all of our visitor centers. Are we leveraging our visitor centers in a way that begins to put into those visitors the idea that employment here might not be a bad idea? I just want to, just thinking about, my spitballing, right? Just other ways that we can begin to address some of these boxes and attracting talent, retaining talent, et cetera.
Thank you.
That was my point B earlier about the indigenous communities across the whole upper tier of our state. There has to be opportunities for us to be a little more engaged with those communities. And there's talented, smart, wonderful professionals who might not think of us as an employer of choice.
Yeah. Understood.
No, it's absolutely, and they're not traditional methods of attracting these populations, right?
Yes.
So we have to be as creative as possible and meet people where they are.
Yeah.
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 Well done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That was good.
All right, thanks, Alexis. Appreciate it. All right, this has been referenced a couple times. Up next is Sandra, Workforce Development Update.
Good morning, Chairman, trustees, NYPA colleagues, and the public. I am here today to provide a look back on metrics, outcomes, and lessons learned from our investments into the Workforce Development Training Initiative. I'm really happy and excited to share with you some of the work that's been done by our training organizations. So I wanted to start by sharing this video that was prepared from a graduation ceremony that we went to at Soulful Synergy in New Rochelle.
Just finished our recent cohort from our NYPA funded programming. Students were able to learn skills in HVAC and electrification. So looking at everything from troubleshooting, maintenance, repair, installation of HVAC and heat pump units. Participants received their OSHA 30 certifications, SST, G-Pro fundamentals, as well as the EPA 608, which deals with refrigerant handling. So students are now more prepared than ever to kind of step into an industry that's continuing to emerge and continuing to expand.
We have been able to deliver a program that has been able to develop our participants with skill sets that will make them much more marketable in this energy efficiency, renewable energy space. It starts by being able to cast a wide net. Being able to do that, it starts with providing the right certifications. It starts with safety. We teach our OSHA classes. We also teach our SST classes. Not only the hands-on training, the confidence, but be able to speak the language so when they get out there, they can find success and longevity in this space.
Social synergy changed my life, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've learned so much about myself. I do want to thank NYPA, because without them this wouldn't be a thing. Before NYPA, they were doing like the regular making the structures. Now we get access to more of the electrification side.
This place was so good to me because I didn't know where I was going. I was lost. Because of social synergy and NYPA, I can leave my dead-end job, and now I got a new job in HVAC, new career, good pay, good everything. I'm set.
This community is now prepared to really lead the charge. We're really excited to have a new generation of leaders to help take us into the clean energy transition and the clean energy future.
Thank you. I've watched this video so many times and I always get emotional and it always makes me smile, and just meeting the students. And I'll dive more into Soulful Synergy and the KPIs in a little bit, but I wanted to first start by providing a timeline. It's coming. I'll continue as the timeline comes up. So as we look back, the first RFP was issued in July of 2024. We received at that time a very robust response of 18 applications. We made 4 different awards throughout the fiscal year, in October and December of 2024, and then January and March of 2025. So we began the contracting process after each tranche, but there's always, a bit of time between board approval and contracting. And so by the end of March of 2025, many of the contracts were executed and on their way. Our next fiscal year then started April 1 of 2025, and we felt that an RFA as opposed to an RFP would be better suited for the Workforce Training Initiative. So we switched gears. We issued an RFA in mid-August of 2025, and it outlined 3 application cycles. The first one closed in September and yielded 25 applications. The second closed at the end of November and yielded 28 applications. And the third application cycle closed in the end of January and yielded 38 applications. 2 tranches of awards were approved in December of 2025 and February of 2026, and there's a third tranche pending approval today. So compared to our first year where we received 18 applications, we received a total of 91 applications this year. I think the evaluation team is ready to quit, but I won't let them. They're doing such a great job. I really believe that the vast increase from 18 to 91 applications is a testament to the hard work that all of my colleagues have been doing. Our government affairs and EJ team, social media and communications team, we have a website now, and the outreach has really helped to get the word out. The program's really growing at leaps and bounds, and people actually are thinking about NYPA in the workforce development space in New York. Just to note that in year 2, we actually have executed 7 agreements now. This slide was when we had to fit in our materials, but we're up to 7 now. And we are contracting now with the organizations that were approved in the February board meeting. And we have 8 programs up for approval today. So next slide, I want to move into our KPIs. So it's important to note that this data is reflective of 18 partner organizations who were awarded funding in our first fiscal year. So the majority of the 18 organizations have been working on their programs for about a year, some a little less, and mostly they are halfway through their 2-year agreements. This data was collected in February, so the numbers grow and change every day. The slide reflects an aggregate of the data reported, and collectively the 18 organizations have trained 3,904 New York residents and logging in over 813,000 training hours. The programs show an overall student retention rate of 93%. This rate is the number of participants who completed training and achieved credentials compared to those who enrolled at the beginning of the program. And this is really a great overall retention rate, and I attribute it to two things. One, the training providers are doing what's necessary on the front end. Their applicant vetting processes are appropriate and extensive, but I also attribute it to the fact that we're providing funds for wraparound and supportive services. These are the tools that help the students complete the programs. Without these support services, I know the retention rates would be much lower. Additionally, 71% overall of the students are coming from DAC communities. The DAC representation is even slightly higher at 78% for new workers coming into the industry. This makes the 93% retention rate of students able to persist and complete programs even that much stronger. Programs that don't provide wraparound services that work with students who are long-term unemployed or from disadvantaged communities or priority populations typically show a higher attrition rate in short-term programs due to the lack of resources. So of those trained 2,568 are apprentices or incumbent workers being upskills. The hours that these apprentices complete in training will directly result in higher wages for them. And 799 and counting new workers have been placed in paid clean energy roles. The average hourly wage for these new workers is $26 an hour or $54,080 per year. And these offer benefits as well. So these are really life-changing salaries. $26 per hour is 53% over the minimum wage in New York City and 63% over the minimum wage in the rest of the state. They're real careers with pathways, salaries, benefits, and they'll help these individuals and their families achieve economic mobility. The total committed investment that was authorized for these 18 organizations was $10,245,000, and we've dispersed $5.3 million. That's consistent with being 50% through our programs that we've dispersed about 50% of the funds. Also, 95% are on track to meet or exceed their expected participant outcomes. We have encountered some organizations that have had issues with recruitment or attrition, but we're working closely with them and looking at opportunities to assist them. We had one program, they lost some funding for their certification class that was feeding into our program. So we're looking at how do we get them back on track. Just as we work with that organization, we work with all of the providers. Just to delve a little deeper into Soulful Synergy and the United Way of Long Island, I've personally been to both sites. You saw the video we created from Soulful. We've attended classes, graduations, and events, and I've had the opportunity to meet with the training team and the students. And Soulful Synergy is drawing students from the New Rochelle and Mount Vernon area. They've so far have trained 58 participants with an 86% DAC representation. They have an 85% retention rate from enrollment to program completion. And they've placed 44 graduates in employment, and they have additional expected employment coming out of their third cohort they're interviewing right now. They're seeing an average starting salary of $23 per hour plus full benefits, with many placements around $27 per hour. The United Way of Long Island, we also went there, had a great visit. 52 participants have completed with a 52% DAC representation. 33 graduates have been placed in employment, and their final cohort is interviewing right now. They have a 90% retention rate and an average starting wage of $31 per hour plus benefits. Both programs have reported that students from their first cohorts are already gotten promoted, which is so exciting. And they're both placing students, and I think this is really important, not only in jobs, but industry-aligned careers that are relevant to the training and certifications they've earned in these programs. Next slide.
Sandra, before you move on, this is extraordinary. Just tell me, so you kicked off the program when, in 2024?
I came to NYPA the middle of June in 2024,
yeah.
And the first RFA went out the beginning of July of 2024.
So 2024 to almost mid-year 2026, right? 2 years, and almost 799 new workers placed into clean energy jobs. That's spectacular.
And this is just reflective of the first year. The second are on, and we haven't gotten the data yet because they report biannually. So
this is a great slide. Is this the first time we've seen this slide?
Yes.
In this is outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other piece of this slide is that it should have an economic impact component, right?
Yes,
Similar to the one we saw with the power.
Yeah.
You know, we saved these communities this much. Well, there's an economic impact piece
yes,
that this slide represents as well.
yes. I can
Which
do
is
that.
probably,
Yeah.
which is probably at least double, what the compensation, earned here in terms of that economic
Yeah.
multiplier.
Yeah.
And I agree, that ought to be, a metric here to show the ultimate impact. It
Yeah.
isn't just direct, it's the indirect impact, as well.
Yeah, and that data is out there. The local industrial development agencies know
Yeah.
if you hire people at this number with the benefits, they have X 3 times multiplier for the economic development in that community.
Since we're drilling here, I'll
Sure.
do it now. So clarify, so the 3,900 that were trained, and that we have 800 new jobs. So it's 800 of the 3,900.
Correct. And so,
And the 2,600 of apprentice, that's also of the 3,900?
yes,
So they've had enhanced, they were already in a job and they have enhanced skills.
correct. So some of them are apprentices that are learning a new skill that is relevant to clean energy, so they can go out on clean
Okay.
energy projects. And then some are incumbent workers that will gain new skills. So our funding is pretty much split between incumbent and new workers as far as training at this moment. We have contracted with the local labor management committee, which has a lot of apprentices that we've been working with.
So they would be positioned or would presumably have gotten promoted or gotten the salary bumps or whatever as a result of the training. In addition to the 800 people who now have a job, different job or new job or a job, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so the apprentices, they go on a wage scale, they have related technical instruction that they need to complete. So at every level that they gain more on the job training, but also related technical instruction, they go up another level in salary. So this is adding to that time that they need to go into the next salary level.
Okay. Because picking up on B's point, I think, I think in terms of retention rate, graduation rate, employment rate, economic impact, economic, multiplier, all of which can provide not just absolute numbers, but in terms of a return on our investment. So what are we getting for the 10 million? We're getting a significant, not we per se, but those who are benefiting are providing a significant. So if we can just accumulate, that, continue to monitor it, update it, and refresh, because the 18, so if you roll back a slide, the 18 that is now, you said 5 in the current tranche, and you said just went up to 7. So what will that be for 25, 26 with all of the awards? How many active programs will we have in this cycle?
So for the second year, if approved today, those 8 will have
those will
21
be
new,
approved.
21 new.
So it'll be 18 and 21, and there's some carryover, right?
Correct.
There's a couple carryovers.
Correct.
Okay, so round numbers will have a better part of 40 programs
Correct.
that we're supporting over this 2-year window. So to bump it back again, Chris, okay. So it's how can we extrapolate, that, and how do we measure? I mean, it's a tremendous, incredible story. So I think it's important that we refresh this, on a regular basis and be able to show it. So, and the accountability and how you audit it, even to ensure validity, and as I've said before, Solomon, that kind of thing. But
yes.
Okay.
And we built a dashboard, which is almost done. So that will make it easier for us to report this out. And then the agencies are reporting every 6 months. So they update, they're all on different schedules. But we get a good look every quarter that it can add to, the numbers.
Obviously it's challenging, but the key is, staying connected, with those 800 new workers.
Absolutely.
And how are they progressing? Where are they, et cetera? But okay. Yeah, great.
Okay.
And I would say that would be my question of the almost 800, probably 800. How are we tracking their success in the job market? Do we have enough information to know that of those people placed, they're still in their jobs, or they've moved into better jobs, or has there been some attrition? And are we tracking what the reasons for attrition are, so we can look at that with our next words? Like how do we know what those workers are doing in terms of staying in the workplace.
The training providers do track, like United Way does every 60 days, they do 6 months, and same with the apprenticeship program. So, and I think, moving forward, looking at our applications is how far are they tracking out. I also have, that I'm going to talk about a little later, we're talking about developing an alumni engagement network so that we can stay in contact with them as well, because it is hard. I mean, it is definitely hard. I've been in the community college system. When students leave, they don't look at their email, their school email anymore, right? But you can see even in the video, so many students, they're associating NYPA with the program, not just where they went to school. So we want to develop a program or a way to be able to bring them back, learn, one, maybe they'll come to work at NYPA one day, but also, was it really relevant to what they learned, right? And I think that's important to note, like I said, with United Way, those students and Soulful Synergy, they're getting jobs that are actually relevant to the training, because I've seen students go through training and then they get a job, at McDonald's or, somewhere, which is fine, but it's a disservice to the student if they're not getting a job that's related to the training they just took.
Right. And I guess along the lines of my original question, the training is keeping them in those jobs or better. In terms of they've entered the workforce. Are they maintaining in the workforce? Are they finding that they can get promoted in the workforce? Are they able to use the training to stay and to progress, like to stay in the workforce? And the other thing I want to make sure somehow, if we can keep track of it, we're providing great wraparound services connected with the training. So it would be interesting to look at how that parlays, are they able to maintain on their own the necessary wraparound services to continue working at those jobs?
And that's one of my lessons learned, is that they still need wraparound and support services. Just because you go through a program, doesn't mean now you get a job, you don't need childcare or transportation. And so I've been talking to some of the providers about what can we do on the back end. A lot of the pre-apprenticeship programs buy tools for the students. One of the students we met at Leona last week said, everyone I walked on the job site, they're like, oh, you have your own tools. And they got them from the pre-apprenticeship program. So just giving them those little skills and abilities, we've had people talk about how do we connect to other agencies so that they can get, those wraparound services, because they can't provide them forever, right? But if they give them a stipend at the end or give them the tools or the PPE that they need, it gives them that one level up that they don't actually have to go buy them. So that's the things we've been focusing on in looking at new applications, because those really are what gets the students through the program, without a doubt. Okay, next slide. And so this shows the investing workforce fund across New York State's regions, right? These numbers are inclusive of the programs that we recommended for the Finance Committee for board approval today. We use the REDCs as a measure to stay consistent with other state agencies and to help us to assess not just scale, but equity and reach of our funding. You can see each of the 10 REDCs is represented. We calculated investments per capita. The chart shows a commitment to ensuring that smaller and more rural regions are not left behind. And these numbers indicate that we're maintaining a baseline level of investment across the state as we work to create a statewide workforce development ecosystem. Next slide. This is
I'm not
just
sure how to interpret that slide other than, there's enough peanut butter, we're spreading it.
right.
I'm not sure the funding per resident, what I take away from that. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, but I don't know, is there anything I'm missing there? I don't look at it and say, well, we're doing 6 times the work or 5 times the work in the North Country that we're doing in Long Island. It's just a function of the math and population density or lack thereof.
Right.
I mean, I think we're equally invested. I mean, am I missing something?
No, I
there?
think we just did it to show, because if we said, well, we invested $8 million in New York City, it sounds, just showing like per capita. Go ahead.
I asked that same question of Sandra recently, and one of the things that she's changed, or that is changing with the program, is the language in the proposal.
Correct.
And you changed it from.
So
help me with the language.
Sure. In the original proposal, we put that we were looking for residents of disadvantaged communities in the vicinity of our sites. So that lends itself to a very different landscape. So now we've removed that language so that we can be more of a statewide effort. So that we'll see how that goes. And we're looking at where are those gaps? How do we deploy our troops? Myself, just set up some new meetings with Syracuse EOC this week, just looking at the areas that where we're not, we may not have as much of an investment. So want to make sure that because we have to do it on the front end, because once we get the applications, those are the applications in the areas that we have. So just making sure that we are giving, the true statewide effort that to get, to be even across the state.
And maybe overthinking it or too much on the fly. Back to economic impact and all the rest of that. Even if you displayed that by region, that may be a better indicator too in terms of where people have employment opportunities, the economic impact in those regions, in these same markets, that kind of thing. You can take a look at all this, but okay.
Great.
The other thing is, once we move into the nuclear workforce development, this is going to look different.
Very different.
Because of the
Absolutely.
communities, those facilities are going to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay, next slide. This is just a slide with some photos from our programs. We've taken site visits, we've gone to events, I go to graduations, which I love. We meet each quarter with every organization. Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's virtually. We talk about their milestones and if they need support, and the programs do need to meet their milestones in order to receive disbursements. We've actually had NYPA colleagues go and speak in classes, in addition to the site visits with internal audit. Again, I've been to so many different events, which I love. We participated in mock interviews. Our talent acquisition team actually participated as well. So I've been trying to draw in other parts of the organization to see the work that we do. And next slide. My lessons learned. We still have work to do. There's always some lessons learned. We talked about a few of them. The first was the RFP. We moved to an RFA, also with the language that we've since removed. We learned that we need to continue to be nimble. We need to work closely with the organizations. We need to be flexible in response to labor market shifts as well as legislation. Some programs find they need to shift focus a little bit. Maybe it's modality for the students, or maybe it's adding in some more career readiness. I've had, a program come to me and say, we're going to add in some more because we're not sure if they're ready with this part. We're going to add this to the program. We learned we need to work on to ensure geographic diversity. So we're going to continue our outreach. Again, we learned that they need supportive services, these students, after their training is complete. In terms of data, we learned that the providers, they all use different systems, right? Different tracking systems. We have reporting sheets that we give them and we've provided, but we learned that we need to work with them sometimes to just go over the definitions that we're looking for in the metrics to make sure that they're across the board, we're receiving the same metrics. I mentioned that we are developing a dashboard, which is great. So that'll be a great place internally to compile and track all the data sets. And the last lesson that I want to review is around job placement. Trustee Morris, you spoke about it, like just making sure that people are staying in their jobs and they're in the right place. But, we know that gaining a self-sustaining career is really should be the end result for every participant. So you may have marketable credentials, but that doesn't always make it an easy task to get a job, right? One thing that we've done in particular in the Buffalo area, we wanted to connect to our customers. So I worked with the key account managers. We sent out an email so that we could tell them about these training programs and see if they wanted to hire any of these students for their apprenticeship or internship programs. We're also looking to connect them to our contractors as well. So I've been working closely with our supplier diversity team. Justin mentioned earlier their Power Up 2030 program. So I go every time to talk to the small businesses about these fresh new graduates. How can you tap into them? How can you help grow their businesses? We're working to build an ecosystem to grow this full circle and really connect all the dots across the organization to maintain that continued commitment to the organization we serve, our mission, and Vision 2030 renewed. For this next year, we look to continue to learn and grow. I spoke about the alumni engagement network that we want to be able to, stay in contact with these students, see where they go, see if they're truly prepared for careers, and then see maybe they'll eventually come to work here at NYPA with us. Next slide. And then in closing, I just wanted to first start by thanking the board and the executive management committee for giving me the opportunity to really grow this initiative so much over the last year and a half that I've been here. We've really started to change the lives of so many New Yorkers. And this slide is actual thank you notes from workforce training students. And, I really look forward to what the next fiscal year comes to bring that starts tomorrow. And I'll close now, just say thank you, and I'll take any questions or comments at this time.
Great job.
Sandra, with
Thank
the engagement post-training, it also seems to me that those are the best people to tell us what could be better.
Absolutely.
They're now in the workforce, and if they say, this is great, this prepared me, or this is what I'm missing, this is what I wish I had, this is what I, would like to see going forward. It seems like the best resource for the looking at this program as the people themselves who've come through it.
I agree. And I think they'll say more to us than they would to their training providers. That's definitely, and so keeping in contact with them is really key. And so that's.
Especially if we give them an open ear and let them know they can pretty much tell us whatever they think we should know.
Right.
Rather than what we want to hear.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is fabulous testimonials. I would like to highlight the chairman, Go Bills, Jeanette.
Oh, yes.
Well,
3 of our pre-apprentices are working on the new
found
Bill
that.
Stadium.
yes.
I also want to say to Karina, I think you ought to reach out to Rod. He's
Yeah.
obviously a hit. I think he's somebody you ought to be following up with, put him on your radar.
The audit team met Rod last Thursday. We were in Buffalo. This is Leona, but yes, we have
Rod's a high impact
testimonials.
player.
Which I'm going to put together for you because we have a lot of testimonials and I can't share them all at the board meeting, but we're going to put together a book for you with the different testimonials because they're really amazing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank
Although he's
you.
got doubles up there as hot rod, so I don't know.
He said
But-
that so that people remember his name.
Yeah, okay, well, it's working. He's getting more visibility, he got more than he bargained for, I think there. Sam, well, great report and appreciate that. Look forward to just making, refreshing that on a regular basis. So very, very well done. Yeah, and look forward to putting more than 25 million at this in the years to come, because obviously we're changing lives and having a real impact. So very well done, everyone involved here, so. Okay, next up, said we had 3 committee meetings over the last 10 days, 2 weeks. Finance was literally, 10, 12 days ago. And coming out of that, we had, I think, there are 7 recommendations for us to move on today. Quick little recap. The first of those was another quarterly allocation in support of Canal's operations for just under $30 million. You've heard it referenced here. Number 2, the second tranche of 25 million umbrella approval, earmarking, if you will, for workforce development. Another 2 million in support of the REACH program that's been referenced a couple times as well. The Illuminate program authorization of an additional 25 million of funding under the original contract umbrella. And then $250 million authorizations that are earmarking funds. I know Joe sent, did Joe's memo make it out to everybody?
I don't think it did, no.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
Joe put an analysis together that'll make sure it gets circulated to all of you that shows how over the next 10 years, the $250 million authorizations are expected to be expended. We're earmarking funds. We're not authorizing 500 million per se. We're just earmarking is my phrase to be used canals and guard gate and wastewater rehab, redesign, the kind of rehab that's perpetually done. And then as Sandra just referenced, we've got a total of, what is it, Sandra, 8 awards for a total of $5 million for additional workforce development initiatives. So unless anyone has any follow-up questions from the actions and approvals from Finance Committee meeting, I'd ask for a motion to approve those recommendations. Lori, thank you. Second B, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. A couple days later, we had a governance committee meeting, and ably chaired by Ms. Gonzalez. B, report out, please.
Okay, so the
You
governance.
told me it went, couldn't have gone smoother.
Oh, yeah, it was.
It's a technological marvel, you told me.
We survived.
Yeah,
It
okay.
was marathon-like as well, but we survived. The governance committee met on March 20th. We adopted minutes and received staff reports and adopted the following resolutions. But I do want to say, the staff reports were amazing. The 3 E's, right? That's how I remember it. The 3 E's of impact: environment, economy, and employment. Very broad and just a great overview of the organization. And then we had our first report from on communications and external affairs strategy. So Charles, thank you very much. That was excellent. Much appreciated. The items before the board for adoption are procurement and related reports for the New York Power Authority and Canal Corporation, the annual report of procurement contracts, the annual review of open procurement service contracts, the annual review and approval of guidelines and procedures for the disposal and acquisition of real property, and annual reports for the disposal and acquisition of real property, the annual review and approval of certain policies for the Power Authority and the Canal Corporation, the New York Power Authority and Canal Corporation 2025 annual board evaluations pursuant to sections 2800 and 2824 of the Public Authorities Law and guidance of the authority's budget office, the annual review and approval of guidelines for the investment of funds, and the 2025 annual report on investment of authority funds, and the annual report on the New York Power Authority and State Canal Corporation 2026 mission statements and strategic plans.
That it? That was all you did?
That's a
That
lot.
was all you did?
It was marathon.
Come on.
It was a good meeting.
I would have expected more, B. Come on.
So anyway, now, if I could have a motion, please, to adopt these aforementioned items. Thank you.
Any other discussion
Oh,
other than the rat-a-tat-tat in the microphone? I'm not sure.
try a different mic. Oh.
See, those technological
Oh, I'm
issues are following you
I'll share.
everywhere.
It's
All
my
right.
aura.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Great work, B. Way to go. All right. And then this morning,
I have NYRED. Or we're gonna do NYRED later.
correct, we'll do it
Okay.
at NYRED when we do NYRED.
Got it. Sorry.
This is
There
joint
you go.
meeting of
That's right. I
canals
get
and
excited
power
towards
authority.
the end, yes.
Okay. We'll get back to you, all right?
Please
All right.
do.
Okay. This morning, we had, as always, an action-packed audit committee chaired by, Mr. Trainer. So Dennis, take us away. Give us a
Okay,
recap.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The audit committee met on Tuesday, this morning, March 31st, and adopted the minutes from the December 9th, 2025 audit committee meeting. Committee also received a report from Salmon Alley on the 2025 internal audit plan update. In addition, KPMG presented their audit results and strategy for the year ending December 31st, 2025. The following 3 items are now before the NYPA trustees and New York State Canal Corporation's Board of Directors for adoption. The items before the trustees for adoption are: 1, approval and adoption of the New York Power Authority and Canal Corporation's 2026 internal audit plan and strategy. 2, 2025 financial reports with 2024 comparative data pursuant to section 2800 of the Public Authorities Law and Regulations of the Office of the State Controller. 3, approval and adoption of New York Power Authority's internal audit charter corporate policy 5-1. I now ask for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
All right, Laura, thanks very much. Second, Michael, appreciate that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're just taking right over. You're
I know, I'm
rolling.
sorry. Yeah,
That's
go
fine.
ahead.
That's right. You're on a roll. That's good. All right. Motion carried. Thank you very, very much. All right, consent agenda. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review the materials that were presented, including the resolution Justin referenced in his opening remarks relative to his and our activities in the nuclear arena. There's the typical inclusion of the numerous economic development awards under Maribel's authorization, all the rest of it. Unless there's any questions or comments, I'd ask for a motion.
Well, one comment, Chairman Koelmel. I just want to note for the record that there's several hospitals in the recharge programs that are under the Northwell Health banner, banner. And I just joined the Northwell Health Board. Northwell Health is a nonprofit. These hospitals, North Shore, South Shore, Long Island Jewish, Lenox Hill, has been in the program for a long time. I have no economic interest in these programs, no conflicts. I'm a volunteer on the board, so it's non-paid board. So I should be fine. Joe, you suggested. Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. So I just want to make that for the record.
Disclosure, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Unless there's any other matters that come before us, that concludes our agenda for today. We're next back together middle of May 19th. The note says officially. By then, the Sabres will hopefully be into round 2 of the playoffs. The Mets and the Brewers will be leading their divisions, and the sun will be shining and the temperatures will be warmer. So with that as a kind and fond farewell, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thanks very much. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.